In this, it's at least initially shocking in the idea of choosing a career for the next 40-odd years of your life. As fear and self-doubt creep into the most crucial decisions in our life, where we go to college, what we choose in a major, what we pursue in a certain career, one can't help but question every choice made for the next milestone. And for many, we will continue to live in hypotheticals. What if I did this? What if I didn't do that? As common as it is, one may never escape the questions that brew upon graduating and furthering our future as 2022 graduates. In light of this, I'd like to share a story of the late Charles Bukowski, a 20th century American writer and poet. Being a German immigrant, a young Bukowski would be ostracized as an outcast throughout his childhood. Instances of abuse and neglection would lay the foundation for his outlook on life and his desire to express himself as a writer. Bouncing across different blue-collar jobs, Bukowski made his first attempt in becoming a professional writer, writing hundreds of short stories. Out of these, despite a few being published, all found no success, no recognition, and what looked to be no reason to continue as a writer. So he stopped. In a few years' time, Bukowski would stop writing altogether, disheartened by his inability to successfully make it as a writer. Thereafter, he would return to various blue-collar jobs once again, only to return to writing a decade later. 35 years old, Bukowski would continue working at a post office, the same in which he had quit years ago to pursue his ambitions as a writer, managing time to write between shifts any chance he had. With no clear sight of fame or money or success or making a mere living, Bukowski would write for decades on end. Only after a long road of rejection from the norms and expectations of what made a good writer, Bukowski's work would finally be appreciated by an audience and a publisher. 50 years old. To many, the tail end of one's career, it only began right then and there. Becoming successful and famous in the literary world and in culture at large, it would take years and years of trying and toiling to eventually have life work in his favor. To finally become what he aspired to be as a kid, fulfilling the purpose that seemed to be what he was meant for. Here, it's at least very puzzling that his gravestone reads, "Right now, don't try." A rather grim and odd message given Bukowski's life story. How could someone, though it took a while, who gained recognition and fame and a living all due to his relentless trying, leave behind the words, "Don't try," as a final offering? In it all, perhaps this gravestone is where the most important idea can be found in both Bukowski's work and his life. Written in a letter to William Packard, a friend and fellow writer, Bukowski wrote, "Too many writers write for the wrong reason. They want to get famous or they want to get rich. When everything works best, it's not because you chose writing, but because writing chose you. When it's stuffed in your ears, nostrils, under your fingernails, it's when there's no hope but that." Where Bukowski is referring to ambitious writers, he is arguably referring to something greater, the idea of purpose and success in its entirety. Much like when you were young and first asked what your favorite color was, and you decided it was blue or it was red or something else, perhaps it felt like a choice, but it wasn't. No one decides how colors make them feel and why some paint onto the mind better than others. We may describe reasons why we like a color, but we can't choose why we do. The color, in a way, chooses you. In this case, like choosing your favorite color, it's simple and low stakes to decide what feels best and choose without trying. How one finds their purpose and continues the bulk of their life, however, is not so simple nor so low stakes, making it that much more complex and taxing and confusing. Though, perhaps it is, at its roots, similar to knowing your favorite color. In that same letter to Packard, Bukowski wrote, "We work too hard. We try too hard. Don't try. Don't work. It's there, looking right at us, aching to kick out." In this, Bukowski alludes to the concept that if you have to try, if you have to try to care about something or try to want something, perhaps you don't care about it and perhaps you don't want it. Maybe it's not your favorite color. As you've heard, Bukowski always returned to writing, never belittling, changing, or molding his voice for the sake of something else, never allowing years of rejection and the painful process to take writing away from him. In hindsight, it wasn't that Bukowski didn't try, rather that he didn't try to be someone who wasn't. He tried to be a writer, not trying to want to be a writer, not trying to write how others expected him to do so. He simply just wrote. In general, we seem to perform our best when we are ourselves, attending to who we wish to be and what we wish to say, not confined by strings of doubt and fear. Maybe, altogether, this is what Bukowski truly meant. But no one other than Bukowski would truthfully know what he meant in anything. None of which is to suggest that something as complicated as purpose and passion is simple in choice, because it's not. It's not as if writing or business or engineering or medicine or anything else must be effortless in order to be the right choice or to be great at something. However, It is likely that if work and pain amidst the process doesn't feel worth it, and you don't fancy to continue in the face of rejection or sacrifice, then this is where Bukowski might say, don't try. But if it does, if the idea of not having tried something hurts more than the suffering through the process, if not having tried something at all frightens you, then Bukowski might say here, try. And if you're going to try, go all the way. So, class of 2022, I ask you, just as writing served the purpose and legacy of the late Charles Bukowski, what is your equivalent? Knowing the potential that is bestowed upon this Tiger field, what will you make of it? We've gone this far, now it's time to choose our favorite color. Thank you.
Mercedes High School salutatorian Juan Galvan will deliver his address.
That's a tough speech to go after. That was a great speech, man. But I'm gonna try my best. Good evening, parents, staff, and graduates. This is the graduation ceremony of the greatest groups of graduates to ever walk the halls of Mercedes High School. My name is Juan Galvan, and I am your Mercedes High School salutatorian. If you know me personally, you know I'm not a person that talks much. I'm getting nervous. So this speech is not gonna be very long, but I hope it's good. When I found out I was ranked number 2, I was more scared to give this speech than excited to be the salutatorian. I would even joke with my parents sometimes that, man, I wish I was number 3 so I didn't have to give this speech.